Welcome to the Callous Mindset podcast, where discipline meets growth and high performance thinking becomes a way of life. I'm your host, Cannon Callis. Each episode, we're sitting down with elite entrepreneurs, real estate professionals, and other leaders who refuse to settle for average. Today's high performance guest is Matt Weston, who is not just a real estate advisor with Amherst Madison. He's also the co-founder of Boise Infill and leads the Weston team. He specializes in new construction, urban infill, redevelopment across the Treasure Valley in Idaho, working on projects that involve zoning, density, long-term development strategy, and many agents avoid this because it's pretty intimidating. Matt, thanks for being on the show today.
Hey, thank you, Ken. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having interest in this.
Absolutely. It's always interested me just to kind of watch how cities develop, and being from a bigger place, Dallas, Fort Worth, it's a massive, massive city. I've always been around construction, and to come into Boise, Idaho and see what they're doing, it's really eye-opening. It's impressive, the scale and what they're doing here.
It's construction everywhere, reinvestment everywhere. There's a lot of case studies happening at light speed. So it's definitely a place that you can learn and gain an education in this environment, more so than most places around the country. So it's a special place for real estate because of the growth, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's talk about your origin. Like, how did you actually get into real estate? And ultimately, how did you progress through your career to get to this point where you are today?
Right. And so I got my degree at Boise State in 1999, and that was unfortunately during the dot-com bust. And the places I was hoping to get, my entry-level jobs, that I was a public affairs Bachelor of Science, and that came from changing my degree 4 or 5 times in college, and that was just kind of the path of least resistance. Couldn't get a real job, and I was bartending, playing arena football after Boise State football, and getting my real estate license was like a Hail Mary, try to figure something out. I had a little bit of family history on real estate with my grandparents on my mom's side of the family, and I knew that I wanted to buy rentals. I had my friends, I was 27 years old, 26, 27 years old, and I had friends buying their first homes. So I jumped into it, got my license, and just dove in and tried to figure it out. And so just really kind of cold turkey, jump into the Boise real estate market to see if I could survive.
Awesome. And what was it that made you attracted to the idea of owning rental property?
The financial literacy component of, buying a home, owning a home, and graduating and buying an investment property, rental property. For me, that was at least, fundamentally the pathway for the small guy to a small person start on the basic steps of, financial freedom, right? Is investments that are working for you 24/7, and paying down loans and appreciating tax benefits. I was smart enough to at least know that, and I had that. My grandmother had a small apartment complex in Carson City, Nevada. So I grew up raking leaves, doing repairs, listening to thousands of different stories, and seeing the good, bad, and ugly of it all, but mostly the good. And not coming from really much of anything. Buying rental properties was going to be at least an achievable pathway for financial freedom at some point down the road, right? And so, so that's basically it. Pretty simple, just like everybody else.
Yeah, just as a tool, an investment, a way to set yourself financially free if you do it long enough, or if you have the right properties or enough of them. So when you started getting into agency, working with friends and family, how did you start to scale that up?
I've always been a natural networker, and so that helped me just stayed networked with big spheres of influence people in my life at the time. I was bartending, playing arena football, and had lots of friends, and that helped. But it wasn't easy. I was young, and and it really just relying on being an agent, helping people buy and sell at a young age. It was working slowly but surely, but it wasn't until I came across on my first listing, I knocked on this guy's door to put a directional sign in his yard, and he ended up being the older brother of a football player that had graduated from Boise State the year before. So he knew who I was, and I knew who he was, and he happened to be a infill developer and builder. And so we got to talking, and he had built this whole corner out on the corner of Rose Hill and Gem Street, I think it was, or Ruby Street is what it was. And it was fascinating. And he had told me that if I could find certain properties that, he would buy them from me if I could find them. And if he built a home on them, that I could get the new home listing afterwards. And so that was kind of the magic moment for me to like understand, okay, well, how can I go add value and bring something to the table if there's people out here that are looking for this investment style, that infill redevelopment, how does it work? And if I can go find these opportunities and bring them, is that going to be a better pathway to grow my business than just chasing buyers and sellers doing open houses? And so that was a cornerstone moment that ultimately got pointed me in the direction that I'm still working on.
Yeah, it's a very specific business style that you're building with a niche within real estate. Just for our listeners that aren't too privy of real estate or maybe not licensed, can you
Yeah.
explain what is an infill property and how does that work?
Infill development is really the process of building on vacant land or underutilized land within an existing urban area, where you're utilizing the existing infrastructure, utilities, resources, and 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 usually infill properties come from remnant pieces of land that didn't get developed when other parts and areas of blocks were, or you're working on finding dilapidated older homes that are not worth being remodeled, and the values in the land, and you can remove those homes, demolish them. Sometimes we've moved them and remodeled them on other lots, which has been good as well. But on some of these older neighborhoods where we can move a home off a larger lot, we could also get a higher density, 1, 2, 3, 4 more homes on that. So by buying these properties and redeveloping them into a higher density, really would doing that reinvestment could change the face of the whole block, the value, the look, and you could make money doing that. And it didn't take millions of dollars to buy one home that sat on 3 original lots of record that you could tear down and build 3 new homes. So by being able to, have limited finances and find these properties for myself or find them for my investor clients, builders and developers, in Boise, where there's quite a bit of these opportunities, and there still is. There has been for many decades and decades, and so it really got me. It's almost like the feeling like of being a miner, gold miner, right? You're prospecting and you find these little opportunities, and when these opportunities for me when I was young, where I could make 20, 30, 40, $50,000 on a project, transition or flip. It was like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. And the funny thing about that, the collateral component was when I would be busy doing my infill stuff and listing new homes from the builders I was working with, my buyer and seller business that would come from right and left field just from being busy doing something productive. My normal real estate agent business just grew because of that business current and that activity. And so it really kind of went hand in hand with helping my normal buyer and seller investor business and my infill business. And it's funny how being busy will create more business. And that's just kind of a universal law, that when you're busy, people want to work with busy people that are moving and shaking and doing stuff. And you learn more and you connect more, you network more when you're in those processes. So it really helped me, round out, and I love many different aspects of real estate. We work on ag ground, mobile home parks, RV parks, multifamily, light industrial, and some commercial. I like to call myself a real estate junkie. There's so many different ways to create pro formas on investments and analyze things and try to understand value margins. There's just 1,000 different angles to do it in real estate. And the Treasure Valley is just an amazing place for that too, because it's so active. There's so many investors and buyers, and it's the quality of life here. Is if you find something that you can improve and make something nice, people will want that. So it's been addictive for me. A little bit of success has helped me really. It's not even really work for me. The only time it's work for me is when I'm not busy enough. Then that stress is kind of a downer. But when I'm busy, which is usually all the time, there's not enough time in the day, and so it's kind of just a fast-paced way of life that typically does well financially. So I'm really grateful for that.
Well, that's awesome. And thanks for explaining the infill process and kind of what your involvement has been around it. I do want to touch on 2 points that you mentioned during that explanation. One of them is the builder relationships, and the other is your team, because I know that you've got a great team behind you. You've been a great leader to build this team, and you've been recognized by real producers and as one of the top performing teams in the state. So maybe let's start with your team, and then we can talk about how you built the relationships with the builders.
Yes. Building relationships with builders, the best thing you could do, and this is not just builders, it's investors, it's anybody. And Randy Hopkins, the owner of Hopkins Financial, has told this to me over the years. He's a friend of mine. And opportunity doesn't chase money. Money chases opportunity. And the one thing that all of us can do is create and find opportunity. Is it prospecting? Is it networking? Is it putting in the extra work and going and finding these opportunities and learning how to size them up and show pro formas, vertical, horizontal pro formas, and understanding the market. And when you can present these opportunities and call a builder, developer, investor you've never even talked to before, but you're calling them to see if they would like to look at an opportunity, the answer is always yes. It's absolutely, let's take a look at it. And when the opportunity makes sense and you've explained it coherently and you've analyzed it correctly, they get excited, they want to buy it. And the flip side is for me, you get the marketing rights on the finished product of what's done, and then you create a relationship that way. And that relationship is completely different for an agent when you bring an opportunity and you cycle through the project and everybody makes money. You bring value. You're like a business partner to the relationship, where most agents are transactional and they're hands out. They're looking for leads and referrals to have the opportunity to buy and sell other people's properties, which is fine. And there's a huge need for that. Most people do need that service, which is really important. But when you can bring the opportunities, you can grow builder, developer, investor relationships like wildfire. And it's not hard. And they'll pick up on the first ring, and you'll watch builders, developers, and investors. They'll have 30 phone calls if you're sitting with them for lunch at some point, and they'll just let it go by. But if you call them with an opportunity, they know you're bringing opportunities, they'll pick up on the first ring. So that's the fast and furious way to have anybody connect with you that you want to connect with is bring opportunities, and things will happen.
Yeah, that's a great strategy to bring value, bring something that they're looking for already, differentiate yourself, and then the next time you're communicating with them, it's like money's ringing on the phone, because
Yeah.
they know you've already done the research, they trust you and your expertise, they know you've been doing this for a long time, and so they're excited to get your call. They're not trying to dodge them. Like, that's
An
awesome.
adrenaline thing to size up a project to see if there's an opportunity there. And so it's fun for everybody for sure. And that's you talk to any successful business owner or person that's been around for a while, they'll always say there's not enough young people, not enough go-getters out there finding opportunities. And then all the young kids and people starting their business are wondering, where are the buyers and sellers at out there. In reality, it's all under everybody's nose every day, right? It's just about going out and getting it and making the attempt to connect with somebody to work on it. So it's fascinating process, but it's all under our nose when it comes down to it.
Yeah, it's like almost right in front of you. You just have to go get it, and you have to
That's
have the
it.
right attitude and mindset. Be able to sometimes face rejection if because it's not always the first time you're asking, they're saying yes. Like, you got to prove it, especially if you're a newbie. So let's talk about as you were pursuing Boise infill and finding opportunities to develop, bringing them to investors, developers, and builders.
Yep.
How did you also simultaneously scale the Weston team?
So just getting busy and working, 20 hours a day and going crazy, and figuring out how to let go of certain aspects of your business. And I've been a late bloomer in that department. I ran my business with basically one assistant or just myself from 2001 till about 2000. I had an assistant in 2005, 6, and 7. But I really started getting busy with multiple projects at about 2018, 19, and I needed help and I needed to learn how to leverage. And I actually took some real estate coaching from a very successful real estate coach on how to grow teams and structure and figure out your own personality and personality tests, the disc personality tests and figuring out how to leverage relationships so they're mutually beneficial. How can you get people to work with people that can carry an equal load in a different area and be twice as successful, and then multiply that and bring the next person on and leverage that work relationship and build and grow. And when I started figuring that process out, it's really just been baby steps every year. I've grown another agent or two, another employee. I have 2 employees, and then a couple contracted agents, and then I have team contracts for the rest of my agents. But we all have, kind of a niche, a lane, and I've slowly grown, and it's been because business has grown and it's organically come together. But I struggled my first year or two growing my team because I hired the wrong people, and I was too nice and held on to things too long. And so you have to take your lumps and pay the price a little bit. But then after I got things figured out a little bit more, and I got lucky, I was able to get my team manager, Jamie Paith, was kind of a universal gift when I needed one really bad. It's just my team manager decided to do something else at the time, and I put my feelers out to other agents, and another agent in our office hooked me up with Jamie, and she happened to be a broker that had some office management and was a go-getter as well, and a different personality type than me. And we kind of have a partnership now running our team, and so been very lucky to have some good people, and having that support. Now, we're not trying to grow fast or grow slow. It's just with the right people and the right momentum and low turnover, and teaching people how to be the best they can be potentially. And I'm still slowly growing, but I have a feeling we're going to scale the next 24 months for a few different reasons, because I think our market is on the cusp of another small bull run that's been different the last handful of years. And we're set up now with enough projects and enough effort, in our daily processes, that we can, when the market picks up a little bit, we'll be able to handle double the project and transaction load that we're doing right now. So I have a pretty strong feeling that the next 2-3 years will be at least good in our market here in the Treasure Valley.
Yeah, yeah. And thanks for sharing all of that. I want to go back and revisit the personality and the disc stuff. That's a big differentiator that I've heard from a lot of business owners that have seen a breakthrough just from conversations like this they've shared with me, that
Yeah,
they were maybe plateauing or maybe stuck on their own for a long time, and then they made the wrong decision to partner or team up with the wrong people. It didn't work out. There was a difference, or maybe just too much similarities in personalities, but then they
yeah,
hired the right person for the right seat, and it totally leveled them up, because we all have strengths and weaknesses, and we all have strong suits and deficiencies when it comes to
yeah,
business. And so if you're covering the entire spectrum because you have someone with a different personality, I've heard that can be a breakthrough moment, compared to if I hired someone the exact same personality as myself. We are either going to butt heads, or we're going to just agree all the time, and we'll not have any scope of opinion.
right.
Is that how you see it?
Yeah, it's a lot of it too is when you can get the right personalities together. I forget what ratio, but it's the opposite of what Jamie is, and we work together very well, because I'm strong in some areas, some suits, and she can come in and put the hammer down on me and other agents, and she can do things that I'm not that great at. And that's the thing, is you've got to hire people that are really good at the things that you don't want to do, or that you're not good at, and you've really got to look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, who do I got to bring in to do the things that I don't want to do, that will like the things. And is that personality tests, good interviews, having a very descript lane job offering, and having a pathway, so people understand what you're trying to propose for them to do, and so they understand things, right? And having a plan and an expectation for people to work in. It takes time, anytime you hire somebody new, but if you can set things up and everybody's lanes up with the right personalities, and everybody can enjoy working together. And the big part is when when the team produces as a unit, and the day goes by and everybody's good to each other and everybody's making money, then nobody's looking at the clock. Everybody's like, where did all the time go? And creating a working environment and an atmosphere and a morale that it's like, hey, we work hard. It's stressful. I'm yelling in my office sometimes on the phone, but I'm also always trying to be lighthearted and say funny things, and not don't get bogged down, and let everybody be themselves. And everybody really truly wants to work their butt off, so they're not looking at the clock, but everybody doesn't want to be told what to do either. Nobody wants some boss looking over their shoulder, grinding on them and being bossy and all that. And we try to set things up for everybody to be responsible on this high accountable level, and we give high expectations. And when one person's reaching those expectations and the next person is, and people know when they're not, and they want to be, and we lift each other up. And obviously, when everybody's making money or more money, when things speed up a little bit, then that adrenaline for making more money, if things are incentivized correctly, then it's like, heck, this is great, because then everybody can scale the harder they work, and if we need to hire more people to keep up with the pace so everybody can make more money, then it's a fun process. And I've been very lucky to finally get to that place over the last handful of years, because I have a awesome core of people that are here in the office every day, and then the rest of our agents that are out doing their thing as well. It's exciting, and so it's just for me it was baby steps of trial tribulation, and getting the right people in place that want to be self starters, and don't want to be bossed around, but they hold themselves accountable to work hard. And I think that's finding those people is the secret sauce, and it just takes time.
Yeah, I've heard that before. I've heard a book called Who Not What, and that book kind of opened my eyes, because it's exactly what it sounds like. It's which people do you need doing which roles, not what do you need to know to get this done.
Yeah, I like that. We have a book club that we do, that we all get a book and talk about it, and life real estate oriented. So I'll put this on the list for this year. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, of course. And then earlier you had mentioned that for the next few years you expect kind of a bull market in real estate here in the Treasure Valley. Um, I think that's how I see it too. But I want to know, because you've got so much more knowledge, market knowledge. You're involved with lots of projects. You see the direction of where funding is going, development is going. So can
Mhm.
you expand a little bit on that for, I feel like we've been in this type of market for a long time here, so at least since I've moved here,
Yeah.
but it did slow down just a little bit this last fall, but now I think it's back kind of going up again based on the rates, even though it's an incremental change. It seems like the energy and the direction of the market is picking up.
Yeah, I mean, for me, 2012 to 2022 was the longest bull run in real estate history, especially here. And when rates, went up, from 3% to 7.5 or 8% in the middle of, in the second half of 2022 and 2023, and new construction and development just slowed down to a small pace, because if you're a builder, you're an investor, you're a developer, and you have to borrow any money, and all of a sudden you're paying 10% to the bank, you've lost all your profit margin if you're a builder. And so everybody, that was the staying in and doing business was having to self-fund the majority, and okay, now it's just building one house at a time, or maybe two houses at a time. And so the last 4 years, 3.5 years for new construction and development has been anemic. It's been, it's not as bad as it was obviously in the 2008 crash. And our numbers here have beat the national trends. So, there's markets across the country that have had 2008, 9, 10 numbers the last couple of years. Fortunately, the Treasure Valley hasn't. But what I see right now and the Treasure Valley, because I know this market and it's the only one I truly understand intimately. There's a lot of money that's come into Idaho and the Treasure Valley, even over the last 4 years. And there's a lot of that money's just been sitting on the sidelines, sitting on the fence, waiting for things to change. And there's more money in the valley in a multitude of different directions than there ever has been, but the opportunities and the market environment just hasn't been robust enough to really show that. And so that's one aspect of this, is that we've got a backlog of people who want to move here, investors, builders, business people that are ready to pull the throttle back with the financial means. They're just waiting for market tendencies and things to show up a little bit better. So I see that clearly. The next thing that I see is, September, October, we saw the 10-year treasury yield come down, and it stayed down pretty consistently, more consistently since 2022. It was typical 1 month, 45 days down, 3 months up. And it was that same cycle since 2022. And our market buyers could never really get a handle on their loan. They get kicked out of their loan program if they were borrowing higher on their DTIs. And so we've been on a how many days, 120 day runway of rates in the high fives and the low sixes, which is completely different than we've been experiencing since mid 2022. So based on assuming that our rate environment is going to stay consistent, and we actually have a selling season where rates stay, balanced for the most part, that is going to create momentum that we haven't seen, in the last 4 years. And I'm not sure if that's going to create the crazy chaos momentum where, everybody's tripping over each other to buy and sell everything, which I don't think that we want anyways, right? It's more of a sustainable growth. But I do believe that a consistent rate environment with the money that's in the Treasure Valley, there's going to be momentum that grows slowly but surely. And if rates come down, to the mid fives or the low fives, and we can open up the market to a big section of buyers that have been on the sidelines, because it's fascinating. Most people, you have to spend $400,000, $600,000 on an entry level home. That's crazy, right? And so if rates, get down to 5%, we're going to see our market, units and volume grow by 25, 30%. And our luxury market has stayed pretty healthy. In fact, our luxury market is what's grown the most over the last 3 or 4 years, where we've seen $1.5 million homes. Those are $3 million homes now from 3-4 years ago. So our low end will catch up to what our top end has been doing. And then the middle section, 700 to 1.2 million, those are still interest rate sensitive buyers. There's going to be more movement there. And so I predict, based on rate sustainability and consistency, by the time this year is over, 2027, we could be, the spigot could be on with out-of-state buyers, and we'll be back into a full-fledged seller's market, because it takes so long to develop land and build homes. Inventory will get tight. And then we'll be back into a normal Boise seller's market, which it's like that, probably 70% of the time. So my fingers are crossed that it'll be a slower pace bull market, that over the next 2 or 3 years, it'll be healthy. Whenever there's chaos going up, that, you've got to have your parachute on, because it's just a matter of time before the bottom falls out of it. So I'm hoping that we have a slow rise over the next 3, 4, 5 years. And there's no reason, unless there's something crazy that happens, World War III, nuclear bomb, who knows? But if I think with rates staying above 5%, that maybe under 6% creates the perfect 5-6 year bull market that everybody can participate in, that's sustainable. So that's what I'm hoping happens.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the great, that's so valuable, your analysis there and the insights that you have to share. That's so valuable. So thank you.
You bet.
I only have one other topic for today's show, and it's your mindset and how that evolved over your growth in your career, because it takes a different mindset to be at where you are today, running all these multiple projects and a team, and multiple $1 million of like you're doing a lot. How did it evolve from when you first started as a solo agent?
Yeah, just baby steps, one building block at a time. I've been doing this. This will be my 25th year in the business, and I'll be 52 this year. I'm 51 now. And for me, it's just been one step at a time and scaling. And nothing is, I haven't scaled overnight, so to speak, right? It's, fortunately for the development world, it takes 2-3 years from the time you acquire a property, from the time you sell your first home that's built in that subdivision. So it's interesting, because we have I think probably over 20 projects in motion right now, and we've been working on some of them for 5 years. So it's a slow pace, but when they start producing, for me, that's the easy part. I've got a great marketing team, great inside sales agent, marketing agent, got great open house management. Selling is like the fruits of your labor, right? So that's exciting, but doing all the work in between, and kind of the investment and holding, and hoping that the market behaves itself. It's just a slow process, and the hard part is getting enough projects in motion. So every year we have 2 or 3 that we launch, and we have 4 or 5 in the background. And so for me, this has been about a 10-year process to get where I'm at now. After 2013-14, I really got put on this path, and having the other agents and the mindset. I'm experienced now. I have more ice in my veins than most. I've seen a lot, and you can stress yourself out and give yourself a heart attack, and that really doesn't help yourself or help anybody. I meditate a lot. I'm a karma person. I try to have high character and integrity, and what I put out there usually comes back. So my what I'm cultivating is healthy. So I have a pretty healthy business universe and work universe, and that helps me get through all the turbulence. And so I'm trying to do it the right way so I can survive, and because if you don't, things can fall apart fast, and I see that happen to a lot of people all the time. So
Yep.
it's just doing the fundamentals the right way that everybody always says is actually really true when you got a lot on your shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wanted to ask, how many properties have you bought and held?
For a while, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right now. So not a ton. I've got a small
Wait, rentals?
portfolio that works hard for me every year. And my advice to myself in a meeting a long time ago is I wish I would have never sold anything. Just based on, I was buying homes for 100 grand, doing a $20,000 remodel, rents could cover everything. I should have just put financing on them and managed the heck out of them, but I flipped more places than I could think of. And if I would have kept them all through the run the last 5 or 6 years, heck, I might even be able to retire. So that's the funny thing, right?
Yeah.
Instead, I'm in the trenches working every day still. So, if you can hold on to your properties in an environment like the Treasure Valley, which I still think 20 years from now, 50 years from now, it'll be a better place to live than most places in the United States of America. And it's one of the best places for real estate investment to work. I really do believe that.
Yeah, I agree. It's an amazing place to live. I've lived in Dallas, Denver, different metros, different states, and so far this has been my favorite place. And to
Yep.
see the growth and the quality, what they're bringing here, it makes me not want to leave. And so I do really appreciate you being on today, Matt. And to run a top team at a top 1% in the world brokerage is a huge accomplishment, a huge achievement, and to be reshaping the skyline of the city you're from, and impacting the community, that's really inspiring. So thanks for doing what you do.
Yeah, thank you for recognizing. And hey, reach out anytime. It's a big network. Bill Pipes, big real estate dude. I love when he says, your net worth equals your network. Man, we can all leverage and do big things together. And so reach out anytime, buddy. I'd love to analyze a project with you and see if there's a way to make something happen.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Matt. And thank you for everyone else and all of our listeners for listening to the Callous Mindset. We appreciate you investing your time and growth. And if this conversation brought you knowledge, motivation, or a new way of thinking, share it with someone that would appreciate that. And a huge thanks again to Matt Weston for bringing real stories, real experience, and insight to our show today. Go subscribe to us on all the channels and keep learning and keep leading.